keep saying that with zero evidence. You keep wanting to paint them as trained agitators.
They really are.
I think there's plenty of people in this country who are willing to be outraged and protest against Donald Trump.
If you insert your body to interfere with law enforcement, you're advising people to commit crime.
What I'm advising
Do you consider filming with a phone?
It's a yes or no question.
Yes.
Yes.
Of course.
I mean,
I wish they
okay.
didn't put themselves in this
It's not a
position.
caveat.
Interesting.
That's your First
You are
Amendment.
much harsher than Donald
someone
Trump.
over with their car?
You should not.
That's not a First Amendment
First
right.
of all,
Hold on,
absolve you of anything.
I'm talking. Hold on a second. I'm talking frame by frame.
So in this clip, we are going to see Scott Jennings and the MAGA stooge that's sitting across the table for him try to corner Bakari Sellers into answering a particular question, and it instantly backfires and they both instantly regret it. As usual, let's watch the clip in full. I'm going to sprinkle my thoughts, my commentary, my perspective throughout, but I'm going to give it mainly towards the end. All right, without any further ado, let's get into it.
Moving on now to other breaking news. After weeks of outrage following 2 deadly ICE shootings in Minneapolis, and after weeks of deflecting and victim blaming by the White House, here's what President Trump is now saying about the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy.
I'm not happy with the 2 incidents. It's not, it's both of them, not one or the other. He was not an angel, and she was not an angel.
You mentioned Renee Good and Alex Preddy not being angels. Do you think any of that justified what happened to them, though?
No, I don't. It should have not happened. It was a very sad, to me, it was a very sad incident, 2 incidents.
Now, those comments by Trump come as we are seeing a change in the streets of Minnesota. Today, border czar Tom Homan initiated his drawdown plan by pulling 700 federal agents out of the state. About 2,000 will still remain on the ground in Minneapolis. In the meantime, Trump's vice president is refusing to back down on claims that he amplified about one of the victims.
Did you plan to apologize to the family of Alex Preddy?
For what?
For, labeling him an assassin with ill intent.
Well, again, I just described to you what I said about Alex Preddy, which is that he's a guy who showed up with ill intent to an ICE protest.
No, but if it's determined that his civil rights were violated by this FBI investigation, will you apologize to that?
So, if this hypothetical leads to that hypothetical leads to another hypothetical,
it's a real case.
Will I do a thing? And again, like I said, we're going to let the investigation determine. We're going to let the actual law come to the surface and figure out what happened.
He's saying both things at the same time. He's standing by calling Alex Preddy an assassin and also saying somehow that the investigation is going to just continue. A lot of people would listen to that and say he's already drawn his own conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, he actually said he was an assassin hours after the incident happened. He didn't wait for any investigation. He didn't wait for any understanding. He just basically put that out there. And the fact that you have Donald Trump saying that this was terrible that they died, that he's willing to say that it was wrong that they died, and you have his vice president saying, no, I'm standing by calling Alex Preddy, a man who was shot 10 times, many times in the back. It's been labeled a homicide. He's willing to not retrench anything he said. I mean, I just think that's frankly inhuman.
Why won't he back down on that when all the other officials have?
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe he's waiting to see how it all turns out, and maybe he believes Preddy, shouldn't have been there. Maybe he believes Preddy, did engage in activity that he should have been engaging in.
That he was planning on an assassination?
Yeah, look, I don't know.
He called him an assassin.
But I also think that what he said is true. We should see what the results of the investigation are, and I also think what President Trump said is true.
Should he have
these things should not happen.
Should he have taken that back? He described him as a would-be assassin. I mean, everyone makes mistakes. The vice president could acknowledge he made a mistake. Why didn't he? Should he?
That's up to him. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he made the comments that he made. He's standing by them today. The president also made the comments that he made. And look, I know it's a little rudimentary, but the president's word is what matters in the White House. The president doesn't want the shooting to have happened.
Honestly, Scott Jennings is such a scumbag, and I'm sorry, I don't use that word lightly, but he's such a scumbag. This is the guy that's consistently turning around to the rest of the panel and asking them questions like, do you condemn XYZ, especially when it's somebody on the left? But because of the fact it's his vice president that's on the right, the side that he is on, he doesn't want to come out and say, yes, he should have took those words back and he should have taken his own advice and wait until the investigation was done. But no, JD Vance came out and called him an assassin in front of the world to be able to see. What these guys didn't understand and what they didn't know is that we were going to be able to see the video evidence with our own two eyes to see that Alex Pretty himself was actually assassinated. That's what it is that they didn't think would happen.
This is
and the president says he wants them investigated, and he doesn't want to see these kinds of things happening in the streets. And so,
okay. So first of all, it wasn't just J.D. Vance, right? It was many in this administration. It was Stephen Miller. It was
really
Kristi Noem calling him a domestic terrorist and calling Renee Good a domestic terrorist when their bodies were still warm, when there were no facts known. It's irresponsible. It's indecent. It's cruel to the family. But this administration believes that apologizing makes you weak, makes you look weak, and it's the wrong thing to do. And so, I just think that we've become accustomed to the Trump administration not apologizing or not taking things back under any circumstance. And this is the least shocking thing that's happened today.
I think it's a case of, yes, generally the Trumpian way of doing things is to not back down, not apologize.
To double down.
At the same time, they're withdrawing 700 officials from Minneapolis, and this is also what Trump has said about that drawdown and about the broader strategy in Minnesota.
That big change on immigration, 700 officers leaving Minneapolis. Did that come from you?
Yes, it did. But it didn't come from me because I just wanted to do it. We are waiting for them to release prisoners, give us the murderers that they're holding, and all of the bad people, drug dealers, all of the bad people. I learned that maybe we can use a little bit of a softer touch, but you still have to be tough. These are criminals. We're dealing with really hard criminals.
So, I mean, look, in a way, Trump is backing down there. And I know that a lot of liberals may not want to give him a way out, but they sought a way out of this, and they took it. And that's, I think, what we're seeing.
Well, you don't get a way out after two people are murdered in the street. And let's actually go through the natural progression. On December 31st, when nobody's mentioned the name Keith Porter, who was murdered by an off-duty ICE agent on December 31st after firing shots into the air in Los Angeles, California. And then you get to Renee Good, and then you get to Alex Pretty, and you have a straight white male who's a gun owner, who's gunned down in the street, shot 10 times for our eyes to see, and then the tides change. What you saw from J.D. Vance was being an a-hole. And that's emblematic of the White House. But even more importantly, it's something that shows a bit of naivete from the vice president in that he's not reading the same tea leaf that even Donald Trump is reading. The majority of white male evangelicals are fleeing away from this, ICE in the middle of the streets, taking women and children out, shooting white people in the middle of the streets. It is really causing a distress amongst just common sense Republicans. That is what we are seeing. And Donald Trump in this particular moment is not on the same page as J.D. Vance. The last thing is, and this is what frustrates me about people saying that all of a sudden Donald Trump's taking a softer tone or whatever it may be, the facts are this. Only 5% of the people that they have deported thus far are violent criminal offenders. 73% of the individuals have no criminal record. You can shake your head. It's from the Cato Institute.
It's false. It's false.
The Cato Institute is false?
The federal government, the Department of Homeland Security, has repeatedly published data showing that 70% of the people that have been deported had other criminal records. They have said this on the...
Is Scott referring to the exact same administration that refuses to post job reports? Is this the administration that we're meant to believe? Is this what it is that Scott is wanting us to believe? These guys are literally preventing job reports coming out because they're so bad, but we should believe the figures that are coming out in regards to violent versus non-violent immigrants that are being deported. Give us a break. Do they think we're stupid? Gaslighted at the highest level.
record time and again. I don't know about the Cato Institute, but the government has repeatedly said this has been
over the government.
Hold on a minute. Here's the thing, though. The thing is that you take whatever the DHS says as truth, as the Bible.
They published the list.
Okay, yes,
Anna.
but that doesn't mean anything, Scott. These are the same people who told us that the people they had sent to that hellhole in El Salvador were the worst and the worst. They were gang members. And when independent journalists found out their names, which they did not release, and went through the records and the names, most of the people that were sent to El Salvador were not Tren de Aragua, were not gang members, and did not have violent records. These are the same people who lie constantly. These are the same people who said that a Cuban man who just died in ICE detention committed suicide when the medical examiner in Texas is ruled it a homicide. They lie time and time again. And you come here and
just today, 4,000 people, they put out the list, in Minnesota have been taken off the streets. Criminals, violent, rapists, murderers, pedophiles, people who've done very, very bad things. They're not backing down here.
5-year-old,
already taken
7-year-old U.S. citizens. There's 3,800 children under detention.
I'm going to let Brianna have a word, but I just wanted to make a note about the lists that they've been releasing out of Minneapolis and Minnesota. Some of those are people that were detained long ago. Some of them are people who were transferred directly into ICE custody, which is something that the administration claims doesn't happen, but it actually does. So it's a mixed list of people who are being detained, yes, but not all of them have been detained in this extraordinary surge that has caused all of this upheaval in Minnesota.
I wanted to go back to something you said, Bakari. It seems that the topic of this conversation right now is whether J.D. Vance should have apologized or taken back labeling Preddy as an assassin, because, some say that he jumped to conclusions. You just accused ICE agents and Border Patrol of murder. Aren't you going to say, why don't we wait for the investigation? Don't you want to also wait for the investigation instead of prematurely? A homicide doesn't mean murder. Homicide.
Guys, have you seen what's just took place there? Is she trying to take a saying that it is that we say here in the UK? Is this girl trying to take the piss? Is she trying to take the piss out of us? What that means is this girl try to use us and look at us like we're fools, like we're idiots? We all saw with our own 2 eyes what took place. There's nothing for Bakari Sellers to be able to walk back there, because he was right in every way of what it is that he said.
That includes 2 people who are involved in the killing.
I know you know the difference. I know you know the difference.
There's a requirement.
I'm trying to confuse everybody.
What's that mean? Let me let
It's 10 people.
What does homicide mean?
Yeah, well,
Let me let
murder
Bakari respond to the
requires
question.
murder actually requires a malice aforethought. And so yes, I'm not going to back. I'm not going to back.
You
so
already
you
are
asked me a question. You asked me a question. I'm going to answer. And so no, I'm not going to back away from the fact that what I saw with my own eyes were 2 people who were murdered in the street. The reason I say that is based upon my lived experience. The reason I say that is because I'm in courtrooms around the country, and I actually deal with people like the families of Renee Good, like the families of Alex Preddy, like the families of Keith Porter. And one of the things that I can tell you is when an officer comes up, and even if you are a lawful gun owner, and an officer, if you get into a scrummage with an officer, many times if they shoot you, that is a murder. You know why? Because in this country, in the United States of America, resisting arrest, you know what? That's not a death penalty crime.
No, trying to run someone over with your car is a crime.
Right, but that's not even.
That's what Renee Good did.
No, it isn't.
All right.
Renee Good did try to run
one of the other.
See what I mean? With the problem with these guys, especially on the right, they're still trying to gaslight, and these guys have got no awareness. What they do is they're trying to lie to us, but we have eyes. The world has seen the video, and everyone can see that as she accelerated forward, her wheels were turned to the right-hand side, whereas the police officer was standing to the left-hand side corner of her vehicle. If she was trying to run him over, please believe she would have run him over, no questions asked. But she wasn't. She was trying to escape. But these people that are on the right, they're so far up Donald Trump's arse and so far up Donald Trump's behind and J.D. Vance that regardless of what happens or regardless of what takes place, they have to show these guys loyalty. And it's absolutely disgusting, because in the middle of them doing that, what they're doing is they're trying to rubbish the name of 2 American citizens, and one in particular who literally earned his living looking after veterans.
She did. She accelerated.
didn't.
I mean, Ellie
Look at
Honig
the
has been on
video.
this show and also said that he says it's very clear that it looked like she was doing that. So there are people on both sides of the aisle who have objectively said, look,
It's not a both
if
sides issue. It's
like,
not a
well,
both
you're
sides
calling it a
issue.
murder, so it is actually a both sides issue when you're preemptively jumping to conclusions that these agents murdered someone. When, for example, in the Renee Good case,
Let me ask
there's
you
a
this,
lot
can I
of
ask you-
dispute.
Can I just ask you a basic humanity
Sure.
question then?
Sure.
I mean, just we can get to the, we don't have to talk legalese in front of all the people watching the show tonight. Do you believe Renee Good and Alex Pretty should be alive today?
Of course, I wish they didn't put themselves in
No,
this
no, no.
position.
It was a yes or no question.
Yes.
Yes.
Of course.
I mean,
wish
okay.
they didn't put themselves in this
That it's not a
position.
caveat.
It's so interesting how
That's your
you
First
are
Amendment.
much
You should
harsher
not,
than
you
Donald
should-
Run someone
Trump.
over with their car?
You should not.
That's not a First Amendment
First
right.
of all, he put him. There is a such thing as officers who actually put themselves in the line of danger. Jeff Alpert, who is an expert on criminal justice, actually had a quote in the New York Times that said he put himself in the realm of danger. If you look frame by frame, she didn't try to hit him. But look, she should be alive today. That officer was more than reckless. I believe that
She was reckless by trying to accelerate her car into a
Could I
human.
just point out that Donald Trump himself says he's actually in a very different position than you. Today, he said they
tragedy.
shouldn't have been killed. Basically, that's what he said.
They should be alive
He did
today,
not
yes.
say they shouldn't have been there. He said this shouldn't have happened. And the fact that you can't say those basic things, it
I
shouldn't
just
have happened.
said that it shouldn't have happened,
Yes,
but they put
you're
themselves
blaming
in that
them.
position.
And Donald Trump
Yes.
did not blame them. He
What did
basically
Keith
said
Porter do?
ICE officials shouldn't have done this. And you're saying that they were responsible.
What did Keith
And I
Porter
think
do? What
that's
did Alex
inhumane.
Pretty do?
10
What did
bullets
they do?
in his
no,
back,
let's not
and
back
he's
off of it.
responsible.
Let's not back
Sure,
off of it.
sure.
What did they do to say that today is the day that I'm going to die? What did Aaliyah Rockman do? Instead of just going to her appointment, are you familiar with Aaliyah Rockman? No. She testified today. She is the person who is disabled, who ICE actually took a knife and cut her seatbelt and drug her out of her car. Like, there is a level of humanity that I think you're missing when I ask you a yes or no question, and your answer is yes, but. The but negates everything forward and everything behind it.
No, it doesn't.
That's actually what but does.
No, but in this
Like
instance,
butts.
Absolutely.
in this,
That's
in this
literally
example,
what butt does.
She literally thought she was smart in the questioning of Bakari Sellers, but she's actually sitting in front of someone who on an intellectual level is levels above her, absolute levels. But one of the things that it is that we should all be paying attention to is the fact that, look, these guys that are on the right, they expose how vile and evil that it is that they are every single day. Every single day. Even if you're on the right and you think to yourself, okay, you know what? Yes, these guys shouldn't have been there. There should be a little bit of humanity and decency within you to say, you know what? I'm not even going to try and throw these people under the bus simply because of the fact that they're already dead. I'm not going to do that. So the answer should have just been, yes, they should be alive. That's it. No, they shouldn't have been murdered. But exactly like Bakari says, the fact that she has to add in the but, it just exposes how much of a vile individual she truly is.
English is my second language, and even I know that.
But would you advise someone, even if they're very angry, even if they don't like the laws, to insert themselves into the middle of an active law enforcement situation?
If they see something wrong, absolutely.
You would advise a person or a client of yours to literally engage in the middle of an active law enforcement matter?
If they see something wrong, I would say yes. I would say definitely
That's a crime.
I would say put your.
Alex Pretty was, Alex Pretty was filming with a phone.
You're advising people to commit crimes?
What I'm advising
Do you
people, just to
consider
be
filming with
extremely
a
Hold on
phone
a second.
crime?
Just to be-
Guys, just one at a time. Just to be extremely clear, because I know how these things get clipped and shipped around on Twitter. What I'm actually telling you, Scott, is if my client came to me and said, Bakari, I was outside and I saw something going down and I saw somebody being abused and I went and tried to put myself in between them, or I raised the camera, do not hit officers. Do not spit on officers. But yes, by all means, if you see something wrong, videotape it. I mean, I can't sit here. My dad was a member of SNCC, right? He was a professional disruptor.
Holding a camera,
Like, what do you want me to
holding a
say?
camera is different than inserting yourself or inserting your
let me
vehicle
ask you-
into the middle
hold
of a law
on. I mean, I think,
Alex
but
Pretty was walking
Scott,
backwards.
what was Alex Pretty doing in the moment that he was assaulted
What
by
was Keith Porter
ICE
doing?
officers?
He was engaging
What was
with
he
law
doing?
enforcement
He wasn't.
officers.
He
He
was
was
looking backwards. He was
within
protecting
inches of
our
them.
woman.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he
Law
Yes, he
enforcement.
was. There
What
was a
was he?
scrum.
Hold on. What was he doing? What exactly was
He
he
was
doing?
engaging in the middle
Do you
of a law
remember that he
enforcement
was
situation.
recording?
That doesn't
And
absolve
do you?
you
Hold
of,
on. No,
that
no,
doesn't
no.
absolve you of
No,
anything.
no,
Holding a camera and a phone does
Hold
not
on a
erase
second.
federal
I'm talking
laws.
frame by frame. He stepped to help the woman who was on the ground. He stood up. They pepper sprayed him. He put his hands up. because he had just been pepper sprayed, and then they tackled him.
Can I ask a better
So what
question?
did he do?
No. Can I ask just one
How
question?
did he insert himself?
You asked a great question. Let me ask you a question. All of those things that you said are a crime. Which one of those things that you enumerated is a death penalty crime punished by death?
Well,
that can require you to be gunned down in the street. Which one of those things?
Nothing requires you to be gunned down in the street, Bakari. My
That's what we're
only
talking about.
point is that you have ordinary people who are being trained or instructed to go into the middle of active law enforcement
That's not what
zones,
happened
and that
here.
is
keep saying that.
extremely
You keep
unwise.
saying that with zero
It's extremely
evidence.
unwise.
You keep wanting to
It's
paint
not
them
a-
as trained
They
agitators.
really
without,
are. And I know you don't believe it, but they are
People have to
absolutely
get
I think there's
involved.
plenty of people in this country who are willing to be outraged
But it
and
doesn't
protest
matter because
against
if you
Donald Trump.
if you insert
for
your
free.
body and yourself into the middle
Being in
of
the
a
middle
law
of the
enforcement
street,
situation,
filming an
it's
abuse
dangerous.
is
You know what
not
I'd say?
inserting
All right, we really
yourself
have to
into
go,
a-
guys.
into
We are
the middle
way
of a
past our time here.
Don't
We do have to
practice
move on.
the one that got
the
shot.
left of both of these guys today. That's what's interesting.
All right, we'll leave it there. Next.
Honestly, it's just interesting to me. It really is, because when you actually take a look at the Alex Pretty situation, he died trying to defend a woman. Remember that the right of the family, the party of families, they're the party of protecting women and children. And when you had a nurse whose job was to look after veterans, insert himself in between ICE and a female, we literally see just before he's murdered, the ICE agent throws the woman to the ground with force. We literally see it. And Alex Pretty puts himself in between the ICE agent and the female that's on the ground and almost kind of puts his body over her to try and cover her. That's what it is that we see. And Scott Jennings is literally trying to act like that is him impeding law enforcement. No, he's doing what he's meant to do. Number one, standing up for his fellow citizen, but more importantly, standing up and protecting a woman, something that it is that Republicans and the right have been saying that they're the party of for ages. But the truth is exposed, especially when it comes to this Alex Pretty situation. Sorry, the Alex Pretty murder. I don't want to try and downplay it. But it really is exposed. These people aren't about protecting women and children. They're about utilizing women and children to further their own agenda. And that's the reason as to why these guys can't come out and admit, just plain and simply, you know what, the officer was wrong. That's it. The officer was wrong. It's really that simple. And correct me if I'm wrong, please, for my American audience, let me know down in the comment section below. Wasn't the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, wasn't that just in case if your government was to put militia on you? Was that not one of the reasons? Now, if you take a look at the way that ICE walk and the way that they roam around, these guys, and the fact Renee Good was killed a few weeks earlier, like being able to protect one another, that's something that just makes complete sense in my opinion. But let me know your guys' thoughts on this exchange down in the comment section. Scott Jennings and that MAGA crony, whatever her name is, that sits across the table, trying to corner Bakari Sellers, and it just instantly backfiring with the whole panel just descending on them. Let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comment section below. While you guys are down there, hit the thumbs up button for the YouTube algorithm. And last but not least, do me a massive favor, subscribe if clips like this are of interest to you and you're interested in hearing my perspective and my opinion. Please, let's help this channel and push it as much as we possibly can. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next clip.